There's just blood just squirting everywhere, like 3 foot, just psh, psh, psh. Blood squirting everywhere, going all over the doctor, going all over the place, everything like that. Crazy, crazy stuff. So hey everyone, it's Corey. I'm back with another video, and wherever you are in the world, folks, I hope you're doing absolutely great. I hope you're doing fantastic. Yeah, I just hope you're doing really, really well. It's some pretty tough times for a lot of people out there, and I just want you to do really, really well in your life. Hope you're doing well. So yeah, we've got another video for you today. It's called Spinal Cord Injury Complications, a horror story. And wow, this is a crazy story. This is something that happened to me. And with spinal cord injury, you know, for the people that know, I'm a quadriplegic. I have a spinal cord injury. You may be a quadriplegic, paraplegic. There's a lot of stuff you have to deal with. You know, dealing with your bowels, your bladder, dysreflexia, and I'll go into all that stuff soon. But you know, there's some pretty crazy stuff that can happen, and I've had my fair share. And I just want to share one really, really crazy story that I had to deal with, and it's a horror story. It's like straight out of a horror story. I'm talking blood squirting everywhere. Crazy stuff. So let's get into it right now. So this was a long time ago when I first had my spinal cord injury. For those that don't know, I have to do catheters. So every time I need to go to the toilet for a wee, when I go for a wee, I have to do something called a catheter. And obviously I put that down into myself, into my bladder, and then it drains the urine out. I do a wee, and that's how I go to the toilet. So this works great, absolutely fine. But what happened is I started having a lot of issues. So I'd get the urge to go to the toilet, and I'd really need to go to the toilet because I can feel my bladder and everything like that. I'll be busting to go to the toilet, and I'd start putting this down my urethra. And as it's going down into urethra, before it gets into the bladder, it hits something called a sphincter. And a sphincter is just a muscle that opens and closes to let urine out and stuff like that. So it goes down through the sphincter into the bladder. Anyway, what was happening is my sphincter muscle would just tighten up, tense up, and I couldn't get the catheter in. So it was really hard to get the catheter in. So I'm pushing and pushing, and it's painful, and I'm trying to push it in, get this catheter inside of myself so I can go to the toilet. Anyway, after a couple of years of doing that, what happened it was pushing on the sphincter and going off to the side and then just going into the wall of my urethra. And it was making something called a false track. Anyway, this problem got worse and worse and worse. So the problem would happen once every 3 months, 4 months, and by now it was happening every single day. Like, every time I needed to go to the toilet 10 times a day, I'd have lots of problems, couldn't get the catheter in. And then this one day, I just could not get the catheter in. No matter what I did, I just couldn't get it in. It was just completely stuck, couldn't get it in. And I was starting to go dysreflexic. So what that means is that if I've got any pain below my injury, or there's something going wrong in my body tells me by pretty much setting my blood pressure right up. So my blood pressure skyrockets really, really quickly. I go all red, blotchy, and if you don't treat it, you can actually have a stroke and die. So it's very serious. It's actually a code 1 emergency. It's in the same thing as like a heart attack and all that. It's very, very serious stuff. So I'm sitting there trying to get this catheter in. It's stuck. It's painful. I'm busting to go to the toilet. I'm going dysreflexic. My blood pressure's going through the roof. I've got a pounding headache. It was absolutely horrible. Anyway, I jumped in the car, drove myself to hospital. Yes, I drove myself to hospital. And I got to the doctor. And I got to the hospital and I saw the doctor. And I explained to the doctor what happened. You know, he's checking my blood pressure. It's through the roof. He's like, oh my God, we've got an emergency on our hands. And he's trying to get the catheter in and it wouldn't go in. So he said, Corey, I'm going to have to put an indwelling catheter in here. So this catheter here is just one that I put in, go to the toilet, pull it out. An indwelling catheter is this one. They put it inside of your bladder and Yeah, it just stays in there for about 6 weeks. Anyway, so the doctor's like, Corey, do you have any feeling? And I'm like, yes, I got a lot of feeling, nearly full feeling. I can feel everything. He's like, okay, but he didn't believe me. So that's where the issue started. So the doctor, for some reason, did not believe that I had feeling. Like, he didn't believe it. So anyway, so he starts putting this catheter in my bladder. And of course, the catheter has to go all the way into the bladder to drain the bladder. Anyway, he puts it down my urethra, and he goes, it's in your bladder now. And I said, it's not in my bladder. He goes, how do you know? And I said, I've got feeling, and I can tell you right now, that catheter is not in my bladder. He didn't believe me, because he didn't believe I had feeling. He goes, no, it's in your bladder, but nothing's coming out, no urine's coming out, but it's in your bladder. So what happens is when they put it in your bladder, they blow up this balloon. Now watch this, I'll try and do this. So this doctor didn't believe me that I had feeling, didn't believe me that the catheter was inside of my bladder, and then while this is in my urethra, blows up this balloon. Hang on guys, it's very hard. Like, that's huge. That's absolutely huge. Like, that's the size of a 20-cent piece in Australia. And it's blown up inside my urethra, and I was in absolute agony. I was screaming, I was yelling, I was like, get it out, get it out. A little bit of blood started coming out, and it was painful, and I was screaming. Anyway, this doctor didn't know what to do. And I was abusing him, and I was telling him off because what he did was absolutely wrong, because he didn't believe me that I had feeling. Anyway, let's get back on track. So anyway, they quickly called an ambulance, which was right there at the hospital anyway. They chucked me in. They took me to a bigger hospital that had a urologist. And it was I was in so much pain. Anyway, got to the hospital. The urologist eventually came in. He was asleep. And he came in and he's like, oh my God, like, you know, we've got to sort this out. So the first thing that he wanted to do was deflate the balloon that was blown up inside my urethra. So this thing here. So the balloon is blown up inside my urethra. You know, that's where the wee comes out, your urethra. That's blown up inside of there. And he said to me, Corey, from this moment forward, do not watch what I'm doing. Do not look. Now, if someone says do not look, what do? You look. Anyway, so what he did is he deflated the balloon. Trying to do it, folks. It's not going very well. Anyway, he deflated the balloon. And he pulls this catheter out. I wish I didn't look. Anyway, the other doctor with the catheter had ruptured a blood vessel in my penis, in my urethra, and I'm not joking you, blood just started squirting everywhere. It was like a horror movie when they cut someone's jugular, right? There's just blood just squirting everywhere, like 3 foot, just psh, psh, psh. Blood squirting everywhere, going all over the doctor, going all over the place, everything like that. Crazy, crazy stuff. So he's trying to, he put the catheter back, he's trying to push it in my bladder. It just wouldn't go into my bladder. So what he did next, he's like, Corey, again, do not watch this. This is about to get crazy. He literally had in his little, doctor's box, a coat hanger. He had a coat hanger exactly like this in his little box. So he's obviously done this before. And what he did is he untwisted it. I won't untwist it, but he untwisted it. I won't do it because my wife will kill me. She needs it. But yeah, he untwisted the coat hanger and he straightened it out. And what he did is he got the catheter and he pushed the coat hanger inside the catheter. So it's very, very rigid and very, very stiff. And he's like, Corey, do not watch. There's still blood squirting everywhere. There was blood just squirting everywhere. It was absolutely gross, going everywhere. And all I saw was this doctor. He had the catheter with a coat hanger inside of it, and he's literally just ramming it into my penis, into my urethra. He's just like, trying to stab it to go through into my bladder. He's just like, just stabbing, and blood's just squirting. It was crazy. I thought I was going to bleed to death. It was absolutely crazy. Anyway, he couldn't get the catheter into my bladder. There was no way it was going to go in there. The muscle, the sphincter, was just locked up, wouldn't let anything go. So what they had to do is cut a hole in my stomach into my bladder and put a suprapubic catheter in there. And it was just, anyway, for the next 6 weeks, I was wheeling around with a catheter, you know, just below my belly button with a hole in my stomach, a catheter kind of like this, coming out just below my belly button, in through my stomach, into my bladder, until it all healed down there. I ended up in hospital with a severe infection for 3 nights. It was absolutely horrible. Like, yeah, I was on intravenous like IV, antibiotics, and they're trying to kill everything, all the bugs and everything like that. It was just a horrible time. Like, it was just absolutely traumatic. So that's my horror story, folks. Like, there's some complications that, you know, go with spinal cord injury, quadriplegia. It's not all rainbows, butterflies, bislax enemas and catheters and close parking to the shopping centre. Like, it's not all fun and games sometimes. There's lots of stuff that goes on. So that's just one of my stories. But this was actually the most traumatic thing that ever happened to me. It was really traumatic and really, really scary and really, really painful. Yeah, it's not cool. So absolutely not cool. So anyway, folks, I just want to share that story with you because it might inspire someone out there. They might be like, wow, gee, my life's not so bad. I don't have to do a catheter 10 times a day when I need to go to the toilet. I don't even have to think about it. I just rock up, flop it out and have a go. Like, so thanks for watching, folks. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I wish you all an abundance of health, wealth, and happiness. And I'll catch you next time on one of my videos. Thank you. Bye.